The research on human behavior shows something most people refuse to accept. You are not the exception. The experiments that revealed the darkest things about people were run on people exactly like you. Most of them would have bet their life they'd behave differently. They were wrong. 7 facts, each one verified, each one about what you would actually do. The first fact is that you would have pulled the switch. In 1961, Stanley Milgram at Yale University ran what became the most disturbing experiment in the history of psychology. He told ordinary people they were participating in a learning study. They were instructed to administer electric shocks to another person every time that person gave a wrong answer. The shocks escalated in intensity. The person receiving them screamed, begged to stop, then went silent. The experimenter told the participants to continue. 65% did, all the way to the maximum voltage. Before the experiment ran, Milgram surveyed psychiatrists and asked them to predict how many people would continue to the end. The average prediction was 1 to 2%. Sadists, extreme outliers. The actual number was 65%. Ordinary people, teachers, accountants, fathers. Here is what makes this fact disturbing in a way most people miss. You were not in that room. You are reading this now, safe, removed from the situation, and you are certain you would have stopped. That certainty is exactly what every one of those 65% felt before they sat down. In 2026, the Milgram dynamic runs digitally without a lab. The authority figure is an algorithm. The instruction is a platform design that rewards engagement regardless of harm. The participant is you every time you amplify content you know is divisive because the feedback loop told you to. The shock is real. It is distributed across millions of people, and most participants keep pressing. The counter is not courage in the moment. It is a rule established before the moment. Decide in advance what you will not do regardless of instruction. Write it down. The rule exists precisely for the situations where the pressure to comply is highest. That is when you need the rule most and are least likely to create it. The Milgram experiment showed what ordinary people do when an authority figure is present. The second fact shows what happens inside your own mind with no external pressure when you are completely alone with your memories. The second fact is that your brain rewrites your memories to protect your self-image. Elizabeth Loftus at the University of California, Irvine, has spent 5 decades studying memory. Her finding is specific and unsettling. Memory is not a recording. It is a reconstruction. Every time you retrieve a memory, you rebuild it from fragments. And every time you rebuild it, it gets slightly modified by your current beliefs, your current needs, and the last time you retrieved it. Here is what this means practically. The argument you remember having with someone, the one where you were clearly right and they were clearly unreasonable. Your memory of that argument has been edited, not deliberately, automatically, to fit the version of yourself you currently believe in. The person you are arguing with has a different memory of the same event. They are not lying. Their memory was also edited in a different direction. In 2026, this fact has a new dimension. AI tools now allow you to generate extremely realistic fake memories in the form of images, audio, and video. The technology has crossed a threshold where synthetic media is indistinguishable from real. But here is the part most people overlook. Your natural memory was already synthetic. It was always a construction. The AI just makes the construction visible. The dark side of this fact is legal and social. Eyewitness testimony, the most trusted form of evidence in courtrooms for 2 centuries, has been proven systematically unreliable by Loftus's research. Innocent people have been imprisoned based on confident, detailed, entirely sincere memories of events that did not happen as described. You believe your memories are accurate. The research says your confidence in them is not correlated with their accuracy. Those are 2 completely different things. What to do with this? Before acting on a memory of what someone said or did, ask yourself when you last retrieved that memory and what was happening in your life at the time. The most recent retrieval shaped the version you're working from. That version is not neutral. The third fact is that bystanders make each other less likely to help. In 1964, Kitty Genovese was attacked outside her apartment building in New York. 38 witnesses heard or saw what happened. Nobody called the police until it was too late. John Darley and Bibb Latané at Columbia University studied this and discovered a principle they called diffusion of responsibility. The more people present in an emergency, the less likely any individual is to intervene, not because people are cruel, because each person assumes someone else is handling it. The responsibility spreads across the crowd until nobody feels individually accountable. In a group of 10, each person carries 1/10 of the moral weight. 1/10 is not enough to move most people to act. They documented a specific number. When one person witnesses an emergency alone, they intervene 85% of the time. When 5 people witness the same emergency together, the intervention rate drops to 31%. 5 people are less helpful than 1. The reason this is so uncomfortable is that it feels like a failure of character. It is not. It is a failure of the situation. The same people who did not act in a group would have acted if they were alone. The group did not reveal who they were. The group changed what they did. That distinction matters because it means the bystander effect is not about the type of person you are. It is about the architecture of the situation you are in. And architecture can be changed. In 2026, this effect runs at the scale of social media. A post documenting harm gets viewed by thousands. Each viewer assumes that with this many viewers, someone else will act. The diffusion of responsibility across 1 million users produces near zero action. The platforms are architecturally designed to create maximum audience size. They have accidentally engineered the conditions for maximum bystander paralysis. If you see something that requires a response, you are not the 1,000th person to see it. You are the only person you can control. The decision is whether you act, not whether the crowd acts. Those are separate decisions that happen to look identical from the outside. This effect tells you something about what crowds do. The fourth fact tells you something far more personal. It tells you what success is doing to you right now, whether you can feel it or not. The fourth fact is that power physically changes how your brain processes other people. Dashiell Keltner at the University of California, Berkeley, has studied power for 3 decades. His finding is one of the most uncomfortable in social psychology. Power reduces empathy, not metaphorically, neurologically. People given power in experiments show measurable reduction in their ability to take the perspective of others. they become less accurate at reading facial expressions. They start treating other people as means to ends rather than as full human beings. Keltner calls this the power paradox. The behaviors that help people rise, warmth, collaboration, attentiveness to others, are the behaviors that power systematically erodes once they arrive. The person who earned the position through genuine connection becomes less capable of connection the moment the position is secured. In 2026, this effect is amplified by the structures that successful men operate in. Wealth creates distance, status creates deference. Deference removes the feedback that would normally moderate the power effect. The man with resources does not experience the consequences of his decisions the way the people around him do. He loses calibration. Not because he is a bad person, because the architecture of his environment stops providing the information that would keep him calibrated. Here is what this means for you specifically. The more successful you become, the more deliberately you need to seek out people who will tell you what is true rather than what you want to hear. Not because you are becoming a bad person, because the system you are moving through is designed to produce that outcome, and it requires active resistance. The power effect operates from the outside in. The fifth fact operates from the inside out. It runs inside your reasoning before you are even aware a decision is being made. If this kind of thinking is useful to you, there is more where this came from. Subscribe to Dark Architect. New video every day. The button is right there. The fifth fact is that you are more likely to be influenced by people you think are like you than by any argument, evidence, or authority. Henry Tajfel at the University of Bristol documented what he called social identity theory in research that reshaped how psychologists understand group behavior. His finding: people do not primarily evaluate information on its merits. They evaluate it based on who is delivering it and whether that person belongs to their in-group. The same statement delivered by someone perceived as similar is more persuasive than when delivered by someone perceived as different. Not slightly more persuasive, dramatically more persuasive. This effect operates below conscious awareness. You believe you are evaluating arguments. You are largely evaluating the messenger. The argument is the surface. The identity match is the actual mechanism. In 2026, this fact is the engine of every major political and cultural conflict running across the world. AI systems optimized for engagement have learned to identify in-group and out-group signals and amplify them. The content that spreads fastest is not the most accurate content. It is the content that most efficiently activates group identity. Every recommendation algorithm on every major platform has independently converged on the same mechanic because it maximizes the metric that platform is optimized for. The metric is engagement. The mechanic is tribal activation. You are the product. The counter is one question before you share or act on any piece of information. Would I find this credible if it came from someone I disagreed with politically? If the answer is no, you are not evaluating the information. You are validating your tribe. Those are not the same activity, and they do not produce the same outcomes. In professional contexts, the same mechanism runs with different labels. You call it trust, culture fit, shared values. The underlying process is identical. You are evaluating whether the person is in your in-group before you evaluate what they are saying. Most of the disagreements that feel like disagreements about facts are actually disagreements about identity. The sixth fact is about what that costs you in the rooms where you cannot see it happening. The sixth fact is that most people would rather hurt themselves than violate a social norm. Solomon Asch at Swarthmore College ran the conformity experiments in the 1950s. Subjects were shown a line and asked to match it to one of three other lines. The answer was obvious. But when the other people in the room, who were actors, gave a clearly wrong answer, 37% of subjects gave the same wrong answer. They knew it was wrong. They chose social conformity over their own perception of reality. Here is the detail that most people miss. The subjects who conformed did not privately believe the wrong answer. They knew the right answer. They gave the wrong one anyway to avoid the discomfort of being out of step with the group. They were willing to be wrong in reality to be right in the room. In 2026, this mechanism runs at industrial scale, and it has a name. It is called preference falsification. Timur Kuran at Duke University has documented how entire societies simultaneously hold private beliefs that are different from their publicly stated beliefs because the social cost of stating the private belief is too high. Everyone says what the group expects. Everyone privately knows something different. Nobody says it. The gap between private reality and public performance grows until it collapses all at once. That collapse looks sudden from the outside. It was building for years. The dark side of this for you specifically. The people around you are performing agreement. Some of them know things about your business, your plan, your relationship, your direction that they are not telling you. Not because they are dishonest, because the social cost of telling you is higher than the personal cost of staying silent. Creating the conditions where people can tell you the truth is not a soft skill. It is a survival skill. The Asch experiments showed what people do in groups when social pressure is visible. The seventh fact is about the pressure that works on you when you are alone, when nobody is watching, and when the only thing stopping you is your own psychology. The seventh fact is that you are more afraid of losing what you have than excited about gaining something better. Daniel Kahneman at Princeton University documented loss aversion as one of the most robust and replicated findings in behavioral economics. Losses feel approximately twice as painful as equivalent gains feel good. Losing $100 hurts roughly twice as much as gaining $100 feels pleasurable. This is not a character flaw. It is a survival mechanism from an environment where losses were more dangerous than gains were beneficial. In that environment, it was correct. In the environment you actually live in 2026, it systematically produces bad decisions. Here is how it operates. You stay in a situation longer than you should because leaving feels like a loss, even when staying is costing you more than leaving would. You avoid investments, relationships, and directions that have real upside because the possibility of loss is more psychologically real to you than the possibility of gain. You work twice as hard to avoid losing your current position as you work to reach the next one. In 2026, the organizations and platforms you interact with know this about you. Every subscription service, every investment platform, every relationship app is designed around loss aversion. The free trial exists to activate the loss of losing access. The sunk cost framing in every negotiation exists to activate your loss of what you have already invested. You are not being persuaded. You are being managed. The counter is one reframe applied to any decision where you feel stuck. Instead of asking what you lose by leaving, ask what you are paying every day to stay. Framing the status quo as a cost, not a baseline, partially neutralizes the loss aversion. It does not eliminate it, but it moves the decision from your emotional system to your analytical one. That shift is enough. Here is the application right now. Think of one situation in your life where you are staying because leaving feels like losing something, a direction, a relationship, a commitment you made to yourself that is no longer accurate. Now ask what it is costing you in time, energy, and alternative opportunities to maintain the current position. The cost is real. You just weren't framing it as a cost. You were framing it as the baseline. Change the frame. The decision changes with it. 7 facts. None of them are comfortable. All of them are true. You would follow orders further than you believe. Your memories are edited versions of events. Groups make you less likely to act, not more. Power is already changing how you see people around you. You evaluate messengers more than messages. The people closest to you are performing agreement. You are being managed through your fear of loss right now. These are not facts about other people. They are facts about the system your brain runs on. The only difference between the man who sees this and the man who doesn't is that one of them knows where the levers are. The next video is already loaded. It covers how the most powerful men read anyone in the room within 30 seconds and the exact signals they use to do it. Watch it now. Subscribe to Dark Architect. New video every day. No motivation, no fluff, just the mechanism. The uncomfortable truth is always more useful than the comfortable lie. You just proved that by staying this long.